Welcome, IM students. Today we're going to go over questions 7 and 8 on your study guide. So if we're looking at question 7, it asks, are the following two expressions equivalent? Explain your thinking. The first expression is negative 4 times 3 times negative 1/2. The second equation is negative 4 times negative 3/2. And we have to see if these two equations are equal. Well, right away, I'm going to look for which numbers are exactly the same in both equations. If you look, we have a negative 4 in the first equation and a negative 4 in the second equation. I know that I can take both of these numbers out since they're exactly the same. So that leaves me with 3 times negative 1/2 and negative 3/2. Now, some of you might be seeing the 2 in the denominator here and the 2 in the denominator here and thinking we could take out both those 2's as well. Well, in this case, we could not because the 2 is part of a fraction, which is different. 1/2 is different than 3/2. So what we have to figure out is if we simplify 3 times negative 1/2, and will we get negative 3/2? So we know that in order to multiply a whole number in a fraction, we have to change this whole number into a fraction. And whenever we have a whole number, like 3 or 5 or 100, to change that into a fraction, we have to put 3 over 1. So now I have 3 over 1, and I'm going to multiply that by a negative 1/2. Well, when I'm multiplying fractions, all I have to do is the numerator times the numerator and the denominator times the denominator. But we have to remember that when we're multiplying a positive times a negative, we always get a negative. So whatever our outcome is going to be, it is going to be a negative. So I'm going to go ahead and just put a negative in there. So 3 times 1 is 3. 1 times 2 is 2. So when I simplify this, I get negative 3/2. Is that equal to negative 3/2? Yes, it is. So when the question asks, are the following two expressions equivalent? Yes, the following two expressions are equivalent because when we simplify, we get negative 3/2 for both expressions. That would be a perfect answer. Let's move on to number 8. And before we even get to solving number 8, I want to take you over here for a quick second, and I want to discuss what 6 divided by 2 would equal. 6 divided by 2 would equal 3. My next question to you would be negative 6 divided by 2. So if I have a negative 6 and I divide it by 2, remember a negative divided by a positive 2 is always a negative, so it would be a negative 3. But what if I had a positive 6 divided by a negative 2? So I just switched the negatives from the numerator to the denominator. Well, a positive divided by a negative still gives me a negative, and it's 6 divided by 2, which is 3. So when you have a negative 6 in the numerator or a negative 2 in the denominator, wherever the negative it is, we only have one of it, and we know that if it's an odd amount of negatives, then it will be a negative product. So negative 6 divided by 2 is negative 3. 6 divided by negative 2 is negative 3. And if it was just shown as negative 6 over 2, all three of these are the same. Negative 6 over 2, 6 over negative 2, and negative 6 halves. They all mean the same thing. So now, thinking about that and taking that piece of information, let's go over number 8. Number 8 asks us again, are the following two expressions equivalent? Explain your thinking. The first expression gives us 2 times negative 5 times negative 4/5. The second equation gives us 2 times negative 5 times 4 over negative 5. So, just like I did before, I'm going to cancel out these exact numbers on each side. So that means I can cancel out a 2 and a 2. It also means I can cancel out a negative 5 and a negative 5 because they're both on either side of the expression. And what does that leave me with? It leaves me with a negative 4 over 5 and 4 over negative 5. So the question here is, are these two equations the same? Well, think about this. When we had negative 6 over 2, our answer was negative 3. When we had 6 over negative 2, our answer was still negative 3. So, based on that, negative 4/5, there's only one negative. 4 over negative 5, there's only one negative. So these are exactly the same. So are the following two expressions equivalent? Yes, because when we simplify both expressions, we get a negative 4 over 5. And we know negative 4 over 5 is equal to 4 over negative 5, which is the same thing as saying negative 4/5. All right. Thank you for watching questions 7 and 8.